Hello, this is the homepage for my Google tutorial, and it's called Google for the Middle Grades. It would really be good for any K through 12 educator as an assistant on how to use different Google tools without the classroom. But as a middle grades teacher, I just kept things at the basic level and focused on how I use these tools within my classroom to equip a lot of my coworkers with the same skills. From the home page, all of my course content is located in the Course Content tab, where my participants had a Start Here tab, which welcomed them to the module and kind of provided them with my pre-assessment tools. Upon clicking on the Start Here tab, participants are given an overview of the module. Basically, the module has three main goals. It will equip participants with the ability to create Google Forms that auto-grade assessments with easy data tracking. It will equip participants with the ability to create Google Docs in order to share student work and collaborate via assignments that way. And the third piece is creating, editing, and sharing student presentations, class presentations using Google Slides. So these three tools, Google Docs, Google Forms, and Google Slides, are the focus of this module. By clicking on the learning targets, participants can view in more detail kind of what the expectations are for skills in each of these contents. Within the Start Here module, I had a pre-learning discussion post as well as a pre-learning survey, which is administered through Google. My pre-learning survey just allowed me to gather some baseline data in terms of, can the participants log into Gmail? Do they have an account? Do they know how to get to that place, which will be kind of our home spot for this tutorial, in addition to course sites? Have they created these three formats before? Have they seen these three formats before? And do they really plan to use this within their own classroom? Just to kind of give me their background knowledge as well as their attitude towards this module prior to starting. After completing the pre-learning survey, participants can delve right into the content by clicking on the Course Content tab again. Task 1 is the Google Doc. So for this task, participants will actually be viewing a tutorial that will help them to then create their own Google Doc. So when they click here on this link, it takes them to a Prezi that I created that goes step by step through the different aspects of Google Doc creation. And it includes screenshots and various other methods for these participants to actually go ahead and create this doc. The idea is that participants would start here and then they would work step by step through each of these little circles, which provide screenshots of exactly what to do within the Google Docs. For task 1, participants are basically just creating a Google Doc, naming it in a certain fashion, and collaborating with me. I'll write back to them within that doc. Task 2 is just understanding the drive, some background knowledge. Nothing for participants to do here, just a video that I created on Drive Basics. Task 3 is the Google Forms creation. So I had a video tutorial, because the form is a little bit more complicated than the doc, for the participants to view. And then I also used SlideShare to create a written tutorial for the participants as well, if they were struggling with just catching it all in the video. And for this task, they did create a authentic form that they could use in their classroom, content-based, 5 questions that they could then collect data from. Grading Google Form assessments, that's a Flubaroo tool that I originally was going to use as a requirement, but over time I decided this would just be an extra that I would add in and not have it required, because I was realizing I would be hitting about an hour of content without requiring them to administer the test and grade with Flubaroo. The last task would be the slides presentation, and again I created a video tutorial here for participants, and their Google Slides presentation would end up providing some feedback on the other tools that had been learned so far, in addition to practice with inserting a picture, playing around with the fonts, colors, that type of thing, and then of course finally sharing. So at this point, participants will have created 1, a document, 2, an assessment using forms, and 3, a presentation using Google Slides. So from here, participants are able to move on and finally complete the post-learning survey, which the post-learning survey, similar to the pre-learning survey, kind of measures attitude with what the participants found to be helpful. Do they feel comfortable implementing it now? And also I asked approximately how long did they spend working on this module, so I could gauge its effectiveness in meeting that 1 hour or so time frame. This is a sample of a Google document that one of my participants created. They shared with me in editing mode, asked several questions about Google Docs, and I was able to respond back with some feedback. Here's an example of a Google form, Google slide that participant created. Course overview, they had a cover slide. I removed their name, and then they gave me their likes and dislikes for both docs and forms, since this was the last piece that was created. So overall, this participant gave some good feedback for what they like and dislike. They really seemed very positive about the doc and the form, and it was their first time creating presentations, so they were excited about that as well. And then practice dragging an image and adding from the internet here. And lastly, here's a sample of one of the forms that a participant created with a mix of multiple choice questions, fill in the blank questions, and then my requirement was that it had a page break. So if we hit continue, there are 3 more questions on the next page as well. When I look at my pre-learning survey responses, it was clear that all my participants had a Google Drive, they had a Gmail account, they knew how to do that. They had seen some of these documents, but most of them had only created a Google document. And this person who had created a form told me it had been a while, didn't remember how to do it on their own. On a scale of 5, they were at a 3 and 4 for plan to implement. So on the higher end, but still not quite a 5 for definitely plan to use this. My post-learning survey showed me that one participant did spend around an hour, while the other 2, it actually did take them more than an hour. They estimated verbally to me it was probably an hour and a half. I was pleased that they all found that the tutorials and instructions were helpful and clear. Most felt like they could use these tools tomorrow, and that the tools provided were just about the right amount. While I was happy that most participants seemed satisfied, there was one participant who had very limited computer skills. I did have to sit with that participant in my classroom to work through this at a slower pace, and that created a level of frustration for her that I think if I would have had been more specific in my pre-survey questions, I would have realized earlier that this was beyond her ability level to do on her own. A few changes that I would make overall, modifications. The Start Here section does not seem particularly user-friendly in the sense that you kind of just jump in and there's all of these different links. I think having a video here to tell participants this is what this is all about, this is where we're headed, this is the big picture, would be very helpful. A second change that I would make would be within the discussion section. I did have a discussion post that I wanted participants to complete, but as you can see, there was only one participant who actually did do that. And I think it had to do with the fact that the Start Here section was not very easy to follow, was not very user-friendly, so they either A, missed it, or B, did not see the value in doing that. I would either kind of change how I present that or just remove this discussion post altogether. Another change I would probably make would be, originally I had included the Flubaroo tool as a part of my learning objectives. I made this that it is not a requirement. I am not requiring anyone to grade their assessment with Flubaroo. That is because of the time constraints. I might add that back in though, because I do think it's a really great tool tool that if somehow the participants could take each other's survey and then evaluate it, I think that they would really see this as great, and I definitely want to use this within my classroom. Overall, with the whole course in mind, I feel pretty satisfied with the way that it turned out. I was very satisfied with the student work examples. The students' attitudes were positive. The participants felt that they would be able to implement this in their classroom. They seemed excited to implement it. Lots of positive feedback from it being very user-friendly and something that they would want to try right away. So that was pretty much my goal, was to create something user-friendly that they could implement easily into the classroom. And I think overall that came out about right for what I was trying to do. So thank you for viewing my presentation. Feel free to explore my site further to view some of my tutorials, my videos, and my presentations in depth. But overall, I was pretty satisfied, and I think my participants were as well.